Hello, everybody. This is Todd Van Alstyne coming to you from my living room here in Chicago, Illinois. I have to say at the outset, I am by no means a professional YouTuber, but I'm doing this as a challenge from a friend of mine who has asked me to explain some of my favorite Advent or Christmas saints. Some of you know that I play St. Nicholas during this time of the year, and as a matter of fact, St. Nicholas is going to be making some appearances a little bit later this week in Chicago and in Evanston. But tonight, I don't really want to talk about St. Nicholas. That may be for another time. Tonight, I want to talk about St. Mary, and specifically Our Lady of Guadalupe. Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe's feast day is tonight, this December the 12th. This is the end of the 9-day cycle of prayer for our Blessed Mother and Our Lady of Guadalupe, called the Novena. And so I thought I would explain to some of you who may not be familiar with the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the significance of it, and some of you may, as I say, be familiar with it. Some of you may be need to be reminded of it, and others of you it'll be new. But I just wanted to explain this fascinating and miraculous story of Our Lady of Guadalupe and San Juan Diego. So let me just start by telling you that my devotion and appreciation to our Blessed Mother came later in life than a lot of other folks. I was brought up in a very Protestant church, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, but was brought up with a kind of a suspicion about those who were devoted to our mother, and now have come as an Anglican, as an Episcopalian, to appreciate her in a way that I never have before. And so I get excited and evangelical about this explaining of our mother, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So let's start at the beginning. Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe is as often as she is referred to. And I, like others, do not speak Spanish. Nuestra, of course, just means our, and Senora means lady, so Our Lady of Guadalupe. So the story goes, there was a peasant in the area of Mexico City back in the 1530s named Juan Diego, who was walking through the area and heard some suggest it was a song of birds, some suggest it was a song of a young woman, and he stopped what he was doing and he went off to investigate and was met by Our Lady there at Mount Tepeyac in Mexico City, which is where the shrine of Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe stands today. And she stopped him and told him that she wanted him to go to the bishop and let him know about this apparition, and that she wanted a shrine, a church built in honor of her there. And so with some trepidation, Juan Diego went back to the bishop and explained what happened. And of course, the bishop, with perhaps a bit of healthy suspicion, said, well, I'm not sure that this is true, but if you're invited to come back again if she appears to you again. And so Juan Diego said, okay, that's fine, and went about his business and did what he was asked to do by our Blessed Mother, and that was that. And so he decided to go back, was planning on going back to see our mother, but the problem was he had a sick uncle, and therefore was kind of diverting a little bit to try to perhaps not even see her, but avoid her again, if you may. But she approached him, and she saw him again there, and he explained to her what had happened, and she says, well, let's try something else. Let's give the bishop some evidence that you've seen me. And so she instructed him to go to this batch of roses and to pick these roses, and she would arrange them, and he could take them back and show the bishop these roses, and that would be evidence of his meeting with Nuestra Senora de Guadalupe. So that's miraculous in and of itself. That's number one miracle. The fact that these roses were growing, these roses that are not at all indigenous to that area of the world, and that they were growing in December. December, of course, is not rose-picking time typically, but Juan Diego did what he was asked and grabbed these roses, put them in his tilma, which is a big apron, and they were arranged, and he brought them back to the bishop to be presented to show as evidence of his meeting. And he got back there, and the assistants of the bishop, wanted to see what it was that he was carrying in his tilma. Juan Diego refused, said this is only to be seen by the bishop. And after some, arguments about it, the bishop finally came out, and Juan Diego presented the roses that were in his apron to the bishop, and the miracle of the roses is something, but that wasn't even the great thing. The great thing was that on Juan Diego's apron appeared the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe in a way that is really, really fascinating, unique, and again, miraculous. Most suggested it looked more like a picture, a photo, and of course photography didn't exist in the 1500s. It wasn't painted, it wasn't pressed, it was an image. As a matter of fact, this image still exists, and you can go see it. It actually still exists in the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico City, and the image was on Juan Diego's apron, a fabric that was kind of like an agave fabric, a cactus fabric, a fabric that certainly shouldn't be holding up for almost 500 years as it has, but it was like a photo. And we've been told that Kodak several years ago has even investigated the actual image itself and said that it can't be reproduced. They have no idea how it exists in the way that it did. And I want to show you the image. I don't really have a really good image of this, but it's on a candle that we've probably all seen before. And here she is. This is Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I want to explain, not only the apparition being a miracle, not only the roses being a miracle, but the actual image that appeared on Juan Diego's tilma was also miraculous and is still miraculous. Again, you can go and see it today. So let me explain some of the image here. First of all, the thing that I love about this is that Our Lady of Guadalupe appears as a person of color. Some suggest that she's looking kind of half Spaniard, half indigenous Mexican. And that's really great. And of course that makes sense because, when Our Lady has appeared in other places, we think of like European places like in France, Our Lady of Lourdes, and in England, Our Lady of Walsingham. She looks like the people that she's there appearing to, and doesn't it make sense then that she would look like the indigenous people of Mexico? She's also standing, and I don't know if you can see this really well, she's also standing in front of and over some symbols of the Aztec gods. And of course, the Aztec gods were a very primitive religion that required blood sacrifice. Lots and lots of people had died as a result of the blood sacrifice that was required to appease these gods. And Our Lady of Guadalupe stands in front of this sun, which represents the sun god of war, as well as the moon. Can you see the moon? It's kind of this crescent down here, and the moon is represented by usually a serpent. And I'll just say here a minute that a lot of people believe that Our Lady of Guadalupe is actually a misunderstanding and mistranslation of what should have been Guadalupe, which means, and forgive me for my crude Spanish here, but something like she who stands over or crushes the serpent, the snake, Guadalupe. But anyways, I just think that's interesting because we all think about Our Lady of Guadalupe, and maybe it was Guadalupe. But anyways, so here she is, and she's standing over and before those great Aztec symbols of the gods that were there, almost to suggest that it's not the blood sacrifice of these gods that is important. I'm standing in front and before those, and she appears here as a woman who is pregnant, and it is the child within her and his blood that will ultimately save us from our sins, not these Aztec gods. So that's kind of cool too. So, and again, all of this just appeared on the tilma, which is amazing when you think about it. So the other thing you can see here is this. Can you see the stars on her veil? The stars on her veil are arranged in such a way that they are a pretty much exact representation of the stars that you will see on December the 12th in Mexico City. Miraculous, as well as the topography on her dress. Just an amazing representation of our mother there. Being pregnant, expecting, again, pointing to her son, and teaching us that he is the one who is over these other gods and these blood sacrifices that would be required by the Aztecs. So pretty cool. As I said, the actual image itself can be seen in Mexico City today. We are so thankful for the apparition of our Blessed Mother in Mexico City. And she really is not only the patroness of Mexico, but she's our patroness as well here in the United States. She is the only apparition that has appeared in the North American continent. I have friends that belong to an Episcopal church here in Chicago, Nuestra Senora de las Americas. She's Our Lady of the Americas. She's Our Lady as well as the Lady of those who are Mexico. So wonderful, wonderful image. I hope that you have taken some excitement and blessing from. I can't stop looking at it. From excitement and some blessing from this. It is something that is wonderful and special, especially this time of year when it's her feast day on December 12th. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them in the comments below, or you can contact me on Facebook and ask me any questions that you might have about her. I'm sure that there will be lots of questions that I have not answered that I'd be happy to kind of help you with as well. So listen, have a blessed Advent and in this season of anticipation toward a very Merry Christmas, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.